right, so it's 8 a.m. in Brooklyn, Sunday, and while half the neighborhood's sleeping through their alarm clocks, we're here once again at the garage.
We're going to take a short ride over to Greenpoint Terminal Market and check out cars and coffee.
Let's pack it up and go alternate side. When the weather gets warmer, car meets begin to pepper the summer months. And while you may not make it to all of them, when you find out there's a weekly meet happening in your own neighborhood, a thing like that can quickly become part of your routine, especially if that meet routinely fails to disappoint. Upon arriving at Greenpoint Terminal Market, we quickly realized just how eclectic the menu of cars is. A little bit of everything to satisfy all tastes. And as always, there was plenty there to chew on. Pete and I were able to catch up with the men behind the meet later in the week, and we sat down to talk about what they've created.
So Shmuel and I know each other for years now, probably over a decade.
Mm-hmm. I dated his friend.
Yeah, I dated my roommate, and that's how we got to know each other. And we both run online communities. Shmuel is running more motorcycle community in overlanding.
Off-road and overlanding.
And I'm running Wheels of New York. One day, 2 months ago, he reached out and hey, I got this amazing location on the water in Greenpoint. Let's do something together. Let's collaborate. Let's bring our both communities into this spot, and we did it.
So did you guys have an idea that this was going to have a big response, or was it just sort of like seeing what would happen? You knew you had the spot, you're going to tell people to show up and see where...
It was just, let's try it out. Oren was a little bit skeptical. I was quite confident because I knew that from the, talking and knowing the motorcycle community and the off-road overland community, knowing how they feel about cars, I knew that it's going to hit the spot right away. I've been watching my friends in LA go to Cars and Coffee every Sunday, and I've been very jealous about it. And we decided to give it a try, and it was a good start.
So what's in the name Cars and Coffee?
Cars and Coffee is too generic. I would like to step a little bit out of it because I feel like our crowd is not a generic Cars and Coffee. I don't think it's a classic
common
this
name
is how
for
it's
a car.
known.
Yeah, because it's sort of, there's Cars and Coffee by name in every city, but I would also agree that the one that's been going on here is certainly different than any ones that I'm aware of. I mean, I think of the ones they do in Greenwich and whatnot, and they are like six-figure cars, a lot of money. Kind of can't touch it with a 10-foot pole if you drive anything that we have, but it's a completely different story around here. I mean, you guys notice that the selection here is pretty diverse. I mean, that's my main takeaway.
This is again how we're getting. The event is getting shaped by the crowd, and this is happening naturally because of the people who live in New York. It's not somebody living in the suburbs and he has a whole collection. If you have a car in New York, you're proud of it, and the crowd of New York is a little different than any other city, and I think it brings something very unique.
100%.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that Greenpoint Terminal Market, there's the view there, but other than that, like, unmistakable sort of skyline backdrop, is there something about those meets that speaks to you as like definitively New York City?
I think so. I was trying to describe it in terms of music. Our crowd is more of a hip hop in a world of classical music. Cars and Coffee, classic Cars and Coffee is like very, everything has to be proper, everything has to be very glamorous. And with us, it's like you can roll in like an old car, Japanese car that is not worth that much money, but still it's super cool.
All the characters.
It's cooler than a lot of the hypercars that we see.
It's coffee in a thermos, not so much like cappuccino with the pinky out.
I like it.
It's jeans and t-shirts versus Izods and boat shoes.
I just want to add, so Shmuel said that I was skeptical. One, that's true. Two, I was skeptical because our debate was whether we should do it once a week or once a month. He was against once a month. He said people need consistency. People need to remember each other from previous events. So maybe the next time they're gonna talk, become
Right.
friends, maybe collaborators. So
Community building.
I didn't know who the Wheels of New York community is. I got likes and comments, and sometimes every now and then I posted a photo and I said, my dream car is this. Who else has that dream? And I got some comments, but I didn't know who the people are. Who are the people behind it and what they drive. So it was a complete surprise. The first event, we had no idea who's gonna come and in what cars.
Yeah.
We thought we should have the Porsches and the supercars and all those type of cars, which we thought are super cool. But then we kind of like pretty quick realized that there's something different in Brooklyn and New York in terms of cars and the people who drives them, and it's very different than the normal type of, as you said, cars and coffee, the Greenwich and some other ones. It hit us by surprise how diverse and inclusive it is.
Yeah. In a day and age now where everybody's their Instagram presence first, especially in the car world now, before anybody knows who they are or sees them in person, has ever even talked to any of these people. I correspond with my followers on Instagram as much as I can. I know some of these people, but again, I don't know so many. I'll go to a Cars and Coffee and I'll have guys come up and they recognize the car, they recognize me, and they introduce, and it's immediately like a human experience, and it's so much more valuable. It's allowing people to really stick together and feel camaraderie in this and not exist in a vacuum online. And it's really nice to see people come out and speak their experience and represent themselves. It's fucking cool.
How do you guys feel like the events of this past year and the things that we've gone through have sort of affected the way that obviously we meet, but as we're moving back into sort of new forms of normalcy, what these meets are like, how people meet, how do you think that's changed? And is there any way that the events this past year could potentially have worked to our benefit?
Especially when you live in New York, everyone wants to meet other people with the same passion and share those passions. It became so easy to do it online, but we kind of forget how it is in the real life. And once you give that opportunity, people come out. It's just the natural of it.
You can't share the spark in the eye online.
Right. I wonder if the last year has made us all kind of almost realize that tenfold.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. I think people are a little more excited to come out after being shut in for so long and not have that interaction with people.
It's so nice to see how big the community is in Brooklyn and New York. People love cars here. It's probably the worst city in the world to have cars.
I feel like a lot of people are looking into the future of cars, and it doesn't look that much sexy. And I think people are, instead of looking forward in the car world, they are going backwards into the real smell, the real feel of a car. I think it's more appealing than the future of cars. So I think that draws a lot of people into old vintage or collectible
a lot of
cars.
Nostalgia, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, do you find a lot of the guys coming to the meet live in Brooklyn, they live in Manhattan? Where do you find the biggest cross-section of people to be coming from, or is it really all over the place?
My quick answer is that most of the people that I talk to say, oh, we live in a neighborhood and we never knew that, it exists. So a lot of people from Greenpoint, Williamsburg area, a lot of people pointed out, that's my building, I live there. We do have some guests from Jersey and Connecticut.
Yeah.
But the majority is Brooklyn.
Yeah, over the weekend I was talking to a guy who lives in the neighborhood, but he keeps his car at his aunt's house in Jersey and goes and gets it on the weekends to bring it. And I think that's part of the story to some of these people too. Is before I had my space down here, I used to keep my car at my parents' place in Yonkers, and I would always see it a couple weekends a month. So you guys have sort of given people a reason to bring their cars out and make it happen. So.
Yeah, and I think in addition to the actual people who drive cool cars or they're into cars, I think for me what gives me the most satisfaction is seeing younger kids walking around, and I see a lot of parents bringing their kids to see how they feel about cars, but like the younger generation and the people who, it's like the neighborhood people who just walk by, younger crowd, kids, coming and getting inspired. That's for me is a
Next generation of collectors.
yeah.
We saw a 7-year-old over the weekend who stared right at both of our Datsun emblems and said Nissan. So I guess they're starting really young in terms of like getting enthused.
That was me as a kid. I knew all the names
Yeah?
of the cars. I was sitting on my mom's lap when my dad was driving, and I was like, Nissan, Volvo,
Yeah.
and I knew all of them.
It's so funny. The same story for my parents. I would have Matchbox cars. We'd be out. My mom would be like, "How does he know this?" Like, I brought him one last week. I could see. You remember?
I think I just buried mine in the sand on the outlier.
Yeah.
Maybe to piggyback on that a little bit, Oren, I saw you at the meeting, with your camera, sort of walking around, I guess taking everything in. I'm just sort of curious, like as you're snapping a photo, are you looking for something in particular, or is it more sort of wildlife photographer, whatever comes to the watering hole, like you're looking, eager to snap, or is there something in your eye that you are, looking for at those moments as they've been going on?
The first thing is of course, the aesthetics. I look at cars like piece of art. So if the color and the shape and the views is cool, I'll take a photo. That's the first answer. The second answer is I'm always looking for interesting cars, because the owner must be 99% that the owner is an interesting person. The car you choose says a lot about your personality, and I think I have a pretty good eye to see a person, and of course the car helps, but that's going to be an interesting person to talk. And then what I do, I take photos and I record them on audio, and then I release them as a driver's highlight on my channel, because the owner is a bigger part than the car. I think the stories are really the most important thing, and cars has stories.
As far as what's been showing up and what you see, as far as the cross section, you guys certainly have your own preferences for things. What do you hope to see show up in the future? What are you most excited about when it comes through?
I really want to see old Alfa Romeos, like old Giulias, and I wish we had like a vintage Ferrari, something like really cool with the old metal stick shift, with
Gate shifter, yeah.
I think one of the cars that was really cool to see, and I was clueless about this entire field, is the Gunther Works one.
Yeah.
The community came to me and like said, "Hey, you know what car it is?" It's a Porsche. And then they told me, the story about the Gunther thing. And then from reading about the Gunther Works, I read about the other one, Singer.
Oh yeah.
Which I didn't know. It's a new thing for me.
Every new car that shows up, it's a surprise, and it's a whole world for me. I'm getting deeper and deeper into, digging deeper and deeper into the designs and the design houses in the Italian world, and that fascinates me. And when Mr. Enthusiastic shows up with a Shmuel and seeing a Gandini work, and like seeing the details and seeing the lines, that is classic Gandini or Bertone. This is for me like fascinating. I love that.
I know that we spoke about the intent of the sort of weekly ritualistic meeting place, and I guess I'm curious too, being sort of the arbiters of that kind of a meeting, is there any temptation to kind of push something in one way or another, or are you just interested in like looking to see what comes and let it sort itself out?
When it comes to real life communities, I am only the person who turns the lights on, and then I let the party happen, and it has nothing to do about me. I had people who I had fights with ask me permission to come, and I was surprised, because I never feel that it's about me. Like the event is the community gathering. I'm literally just the guy who flips the light on, and that's it. So
We kind of like it that every event, it surprises us what's gonna come. I mean, people of course are DMing us, who's gonna display. We kind of know, but we're like kids getting DMs from people. Hey, can I show up with at 280? And like I'm texting Shmuel and like, we got a 280, and we're really excited about
Yeah.
it's every week brings new surprises. We're not trying to shift it into any direction. We keep it open. Again, it's really not about us. It's about people coming and bringing their biggest love, probably, or second biggest love in life into our lot.
I think the only interruption that I would do is to prevent, rowdiness or.
Of course.
So that, besides that, it's just completely open. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's certainly a mature crowd. I haven't seen any sort of that's another thing I really do like about this event is that there's an air of respect and reverence and appreciation for the vibe that everybody's partaking in. No one shows up and is trying to two-step or burn out or show off. It's not what it's about. If you show up with that kind of energy, you realize that's not welcome. I'd be surprised if someone thought that was the place to act like.
Yeah. Sometimes we have like 3 turnovers. There'll be like a crowd. It will be packed.
Right.
And then people would start leaving, and then a new crew shows up, and it's
100%,
just
yeah.
full again, and it's just a cycle. It's like that's why we keep it open. I think for that long. I think it's.
Well, I think it's interesting to point out too that on our way over there, our intention was to roll, sort of together the way that we were. But when a couple of someone comes by, the shop was had another agenda for the day, and it was like, oh, well, we're gonna head over here, and then it was our line of cars that were pulling there. It grew because of the interest in the event and the desire to go to somewhere where there's excitement and this idea of community. I think.
Yeah. And then we ended up over here with people from the meet. And we hung out all afternoon. It's like it defines your Sunday. And honestly, it's like if you're a car guy, it's the best way to start the week.
We spoke about the intent of the occurrence, but in terms of the time, that's sort of like morning bracket because it is an interesting time compared to the sort of glitzy, underglowed, car stylings that have become popular with those sorts of meets, late night cars. It is sort of converse to that. What is their intention with that, and what do you think comes from that?
I think the intention was that was our only choice, 9 to 2. That was the time giving us by the location. But there's something about the morning audience that they make the effort, wake up and come early in the morning to grab the coffee 100%. With us. It says something about their passion and about.
I'll be the first to admit I close my tab a lot early on Saturdays now.
Modifying these kinds of cars, and specifically when we're talking about older classics, it can be a very personal and sometimes isolated experience. Is there anything you would say to people that are doing this, and what they potentially get from getting out of their garage and showing up on a Sunday?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are not aware of what kind of jewel they have, and they feel like their car is not worthy of showing. I had a bunch of people ask me with the almost shaking, asking if they can bring their car. They don't think it's fixed. They don't think it's show worthy, and then they show up. It's like the coolest car around.
No, it's cool, and you get to see people work on their cars. Again, speaking to the community aspect of it, is like the guy who brought one version of a particular chassis in July now has a completely different car come September. So everyone who shows up and sees his car every couple of weeks is also part of this journey now. It brings people a little closer together to each other. It's great.
It couldn't be more true. I feel, I don't know, I'm never more positive about my car than when it's not only me in it. It's only when I'm out with people that I find that I appreciate it as much as it is, even if it's just at a stoplight and someone's asking you about it, Because left to your own devices in your own garage, it can be a pretty isolating experience.
You always feel like your car is not complete, but actually it's not complete, but only you know that it's not complete. For the person who comes and sees it, it looks incredible.
So it's really not about being perfect at all.
Nobody else is noticing the door games you have.
Yeah. It's not just that, it's just even seeing the process, even seeing the process of a car being built is super cool and super interesting.
So beyond Cars and Coffee, anything you guys want to plug or any other events you got coming up and want to tell everybody about?
so many.
is the guy to ask.
It'll take hours. So I'm doing Two Wheel Tuesday here. I am going.
Where's that?
It's down the block here. So I'm doing it once a week at 18th Ward, and then once a month we try to find a new bigger location that we combine the off-road community and the off-road and overland, and hopefully the cars peoples as well. I'm going to LA to try to set up Two Wheel Tuesday there as well. We've been doing Two Wheel Tuesday in Paris. We've been trying to bring it to other cities around the world.
Cool. I mean, I'm focusing on the cars and coffee for now. We started 2.5 months ago. You know, we did only 10 events by now. You know, it started as a side project, completely passionate project, and it became like more of like my full-time job. I'm investing a lot of time in it. So I'm sure we'll come up with some cool ideas for the future. But
All right, so you want to tell the viewers every Sunday what are the times and where can they go?
9 a.m. until 1 p.m. Greenpoint Terminal Market, and yeah, at least until the weather will.
Yeah.
That's Noble and West Street, right?
Yeah, that's 2 Noble Street in Brooklyn, New York. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the guys from Greenpoint Terminal Market for letting us host the event there. They're doing it free of charge. They're not charging us anything. It's for the community, and
if you
I'd like to
haven't,
thank them
if you haven't been there, it's the most amazing
the most photogenic
location in New York City.
Yeah.
And as attendees, we would also like to thank.
Yeah.
We really appreciate being able to show up there. We appreciate you guys having us every weekend.
It was an incredibly warm
Yeah.
welcome we got when we got there.
Absolutely.
And just a really great day out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a great day out. A relaxing opportunity to take stock in what we have, surrounded by like-minded people doing the same. All too often we get swept up in the urgency of our builds, our plans, and our expectations. Sometimes there can be no substitute for stepping outside the echoes of your garage, heading down to the waterfront, and basking in your surroundings. If this is striking a chord with you, or even if you're just interested in seeing what it's all about, the spot is Greenpoint Terminal Market. Shmuel and Oren will have the light on for you.